Welcome back to Salesforce at Scale on Cirrius Talk. I'm your host, Greg Banks. If your field teams are still juggling paper, disconnected tools, or just tribal knowledge that walks out the door every time someone leaves, you're not just inefficient, you're unscalable. In today's episode, we're digging into Salesforce Field Service, not from a feature checklist perspective, but from real-world experience. What works, what breaks, and what it actually takes to scale field operations without burning out your teams. Here's what you'll get from this conversation. How to turn chaotic field operations into structured, scalable processes. What actually drives adoption and why many implementations fail. And the key capabilities that eliminate inefficiency and improve first-time fix rates. Thanks for coming along today. Let's get into it. All right. Welcome back to Salesforce at Scale on Cirrius Talk. We're glad to have a new guest with us today, 𝗵𝗵𝗽𝗀𝗀. Bobby's been with Cirrius for a while. I'm going to let him do some introductions, but we're going to get into a topic today. We've done a lot of different things about Salesforce generically, but if you've been around the ecosystem a little while, you know it's made up of products. One of the products that we specialize in here at Cirrius Solutions is Salesforce Field Service. It's a very interesting product. It's got a lot of bells and whistles and widgets, and we're going to dig into some of those today and talk about some of the things that we've seen go really good with them, some challenges that most customers have with it and whatnot, and we'll have some artifacts covering some of these topics that we won't expound at every level today, but we'll share some of this in the show notes after the fact for you to have a good takeaway. Bobby, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Greg.
And as usual, Al, great to have you back.
Good to be here again.
So Bobby and I, when I first arrived at the company, Bobby and I were on the same team. So he and I had a lot of conversations about life outside of doing Salesforce projects. It's what keeps us sane. It doesn't make our hair stay in, but it does keep us sane. And but I know some of the background. Bobby and I actually have a very similar background in terms of how we got into this space. But Bobby, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, maybe what you did before you got into doing field service consulting?
Yeah. So when I got out of the military, I was looking for a job, and I was in crypto in the military, in the Marines. And when I got out, I was trying to find a job that really didn't translate well. So I ended up getting a job in a telecommunications industry and ended up working for a couple of different companies there. I'm still doing the same thing with both companies. So I installed business telephone systems and data networks. Back in that time, we didn't have an automated system. We didn't have cell phones, laptops that we would really communicate to our dispatchers with. So first thing in the morning, we would go to our dispatcher and pick up a ticket, a physical ticket, and we would write notes in a notepad. And that's how we got our information, where we were going, what our address was, who our contacts were. And then throughout the day, they would use pagers, page us and let us know that we had another job to go to, and we'd have to call in and do that same scenario again, just write it down in a notebook. And then at the end of the day, we would call in to dispatch and give them all the details of what happened during all of those jobs throughout the day. So a very tedious process, probably not the most efficient, I'm sure. But that's kind of how I started doing that with telecommunications.
Man, I'm having flashbacks. You probably didn't have a GPS to tell you where to go either, did you? You had
No,
a
I did
Rand McNally
not.
map.
No, we had a big map book.
That's right, kids. We were here before Google. We had to figure those things out. Good deal. Well, I mean, I guess the great takeaway here is, though, when you sit down with a client and we kick off a field service engagement with somebody, you don't just come to that project with knowing how to set field service up. You actually know what most of the technicians are going through in the field, because it doesn't matter if they were on a notepad or a beeper or whatever that is. At the end of the day, the mothership, the office, said, hey, you resource, go out, do a product, do a service, come back, rinse, repeat, do it again. Things go right, you write it down. Things go wrong, you take a note. That's field service in a bucket, right? I mean, that's kind of the totality of the thing. There's a lot of stuff we're going to get into, some of the cooler features, but that's actually where I started. I had a toolbox and steel toes and spent my life on the road, and I'd be out doing my job. Whatever they told me to do, I would look up, they'd tell me to do something else, right? Well, we didn't have systems. At best, I might have had an email, but
that's right.
That creates a lot of turnover. It creates a lot of frustration on your field users. At the end of the day, if your business is built on sending people out into the field, you need to keep those people. You need to skill up those people. You need to make sure you're communicating in a way that doesn't create more frustration, right? If you're out in the field fixing things, that's already a negative experience. So you want to do all you can from a system standpoint, not to add to that burden. So that's kind of what field service does. And we want to talk a little bit about that today. So I don't know how many different field service projects you've done since getting here, Bobby. I know you're oldest is not the, you're the most seasoned veteran in our field service pods. But in doing all of that, you probably have some opinions on why is that particular product so popular.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different reasons, and we hear different reasons from different customers, but they all are geared around the same thing. Customers want to stay relevant in their market, and they want to modernize their system so they can stay ahead or stay even with their competition. And some of the things that we hear they want to do is they want better appointment scheduling. They want to be able to match the correct technician or crew with the right job by a location, by their skills, by when they're available, what parts they have, and the priority of the appointment. And Salesforce will enable them to do that. It also enables them to have proactive communication. So you can communicate with your technicians when they get scheduled to a job. You can send out that notification to the technician to let them know that they have a new job scheduled. And that same thought, you can also send out a notification to your customers to let them know that their technician is scheduled, who their technician is, and when they might be on site. Salesforce also helps them increase their first-time fix rate. So we're ensuring that the technicians have the right parts and information the first time they go out to the location. So they're not having to make multiple trips back to the warehouse to get parts that they need to fix the job that they could have the first time when they go out there. It also enables a better customer experience. So there's no need to repeat issue details or service history multiple times when they go between service agents, dispatchers, or technicians. They have all that information.
Yeah, there's something else I want to call out here, why this product is so needed in the market. There are many multinational service companies, like huge, the ones you see on TV that are, selling doors or windows or plumbing or HVAC, that are sending technicians out with a paper packet and a clipboard. And they are still doing all of their work through paper, through Excel, and maybe an Access database in the back end. It is pretty amazing. And right now, there's a big push for private equity companies to come in and purchase many of these smaller regional companies that provide service and to merge them under one roof and to bring them onto technology, because the profit margins are tremendously better when you can track and make sure that there's no revenue leakage in your process. So in order to do that, you need an enterprise-ready software that can handle all of your CRM activities, your marketing, your sales funnel, and then make sure that you have a way to turn all of that into field service operations. So Salesforce Field Service offers that option of being able to run through an entire life cycle of getting a customer through marketing, bringing them in through the sales funnel, selling them maintenance plans or service plans or replacements for their roof or whatever it might be, and then actually performing, fulfilling that service and sending all of that information to an ERP system. So really, this kind of solution has to exist in the market for these large companies that need to merge a ton of different businesses, pull them all together, and make sure that they're offering the best possible customer experience.
And to that point, when a PE does come in and acquire these companies, it's not generally just for the benefit of the individual people in the field, right? What they want to do is grow. And what you just heard Bobby and Al to describe is when you go out in the field, the power is what's between your ears, your tribal knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got to grow and you've got to onboard new people and you've got new people scheduling appointments, how do you scale 15 years of tribal knowledge? How do you get that out there? Taking that stuff, turning it into knowledge that can be served up. To Bobby's point, the goal is not to have a tool that adds more burden to whatever the person in the field is doing. The idea is to turn it into a process. So when I leave the office, I hit a button that says, I'm en route. That notifies the customer that you're on the way. You don't have to call them and tell them. It does that for you. So these little efficiencies that are gained, these are technically things the person is already doing. We're just arranging in a chronological thing. Think of it as a checklist. Check, I did this. And I'm not just saying I did it. I'm clicking a button that does it and marks that as done. So anybody who's ever been around a process probably can relate to what that feels like, even if you don't consider yourself field service. But yeah, the scale and velocity we got to grow and onboard people is crazy. And the power of the tool to configure for just about any process out there. If you can define it and draw it up, then we can find a way to work it into the system. We probably could spend about 9 hours talking about the features in field service, and we have just a little bit less than that in time. But I know there are some key things, Bobby, feature-wise, that we want to call out. Like these are if you think about a company that does field service, like, and I'm just going to say the first one, Dispatch Console. I just saw this with a client yesterday, and it's actually what I saw in the field. Instead of coming in a piece of paper, we had a white marker board in our office, and the rows were projects and the columns were engineers. And where those intersected is what got assigned to you. Let's talk about that and a couple other features that we've got on the list here. What are some things that you see as just really powerful points for somebody to relate to?
Yeah, I believe the dispatch console is where field service really shines. So, a dispatch console allows users to drag and drop appointments onto a service resource, which is a technician or a crew, if you will. It can use policies and filters to control which technicians can get assigned to a job. It has a dynamic map view to show appointment locations along with technician locations. So if you're trying to find a technician that's close to a job, you can look on the map and it's an easily view that you can actually dispatch that technician to that job from the map view. And it also shows the technician availability. So what technicians are available to take a job at that moment. And then, if they have an absence, maybe they're going to a doctor's appointment, a last minute absence during the day, you can see all of that stuff in one view on the Gantt, which is a portion of the dispatch console.
Yep, and I can think back to my days in the field where I would have to call the office and tell them where I was. So another thing that I know is powerful here is if I hit a button and say I'm en route, then that's one color on the map. If I say I'm on site, it goes to a different color. So a dispatcher who's sitting in the office looking at that can go, they're there. They don't have to call you and find out and slow you down. You're right. Your job is to get there and do whatever it is you're supposed to do. So typing and calling people probably not top of your priority list. So really powerful thing. Again, we probably could spend a couple hours just on that tool.
That's right.
The next one, Al, let's talk about field service mobile flow.
Absolutely. So I think one people think of when they think of fields or of Salesforce overall is that as many, many options. There's navigating can be a bit difficult because there's so many different ways to go. And one thing I think Salesforce did really well with their field service app overall is that they built a very focused mobile app for technicians specifically. So instead of giving open-ended access to the entire Salesforce system, it's really focused only on the jobs that technician is assigned for that day. And there's a specific process whereby you actually open jobs and dispatch them to technicians, and then they're notified. They go directly to that job. They have a series of actions they can launch from that job to record all of their data. But it's really focused just on that experience of getting in, seeing all the key details that you would normally have on a paper file. You have a list of other files if you need to refer to anything else for that job. And then you can have a set of actions that you can walk through one step at a time to be able to record all the key data, get all that data sent back to the office, close the job, capture a signature from the client, and then merge all of this data into a report that you can then email out to the client. So we're talking, from time of getting there to on-site to finishing the job, a very quick process that requires zero paper to be involved. Everything is all through the mobile app. It's all served up for the technician. And then we can even have it where when they close that, we then open up the next appointment for them. So we can kind of drip feed those appointments out to the technician. But the idea is we do not have to fish around for a paper file, for a clipboard. It's all in the app. It's all on your phone. That phone also is able to track the technician's location and then show them on a map to the dispatchers. So all of this is really well integrated to make a very simple experience overall.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think about being out in the field is, and it's a little different today, but I would quite frequently be in places where cell phones didn't work. That's still a problem today, believe it or not. You might be in the basement of a house or just in a neighborhood that just doesn't have good cell service. Is there some offline capabilities? What kind of things can I do or not do utilizing this in mobile?
Yeah, sure. So the Salesforce Field Service mobile app does have offline capabilities. So if the technician is in an area where they don't have Wi-Fi or they don't have cell service, you can still enter your information. You can run your flows, which is a benefit of running the field service mobile flows. You can enter all of your data into the system. And then when you come back online, all that cached information that's stored on your phone temporarily is then pushed into Salesforce, and all the records get updated as you come back into a service area.
So that's fantastic. The other thing that I think of, Al, you was describing how many people use things on paper still, but even those who don't use paper, maybe they have systems. you may be out in the field and I've got to take pictures of this, or I've got to take a payment or whatever. There's a variety of other things that might lead to 4, 5, 6 different apps on the phone, right? What happens to those apps on your phone? They have to be updated. You get an update, it logs you out. You got to log in. The snowball of problems that can come when you're dealing in mobile is very problematic. How do we address that for mobile? Is there ways to simplify that?
Yeah, we're really fortunate that Salesforce has an app exchange that's very robust. So there are many third-party applications that integrate directly with the field service mobile apps. So whether it's capturing payment in the field, it's capturing those images or videos and being able to merge those directly back to a work order. All of these things can generally be done that all integrate directly into the flows you're already running. So I launch a service walkthrough flow to basically mark down everything I've done. As part of that, it launches a pictures app to take all my images, pushes those back into the software. At the end, it sends me a link. I tap that link. I can run a credit card through or collect ACH, process my payments, and then all of that results in the same service report and signature at the end.
That's powerful. So that sounds incredible. And I'm putting myself in Bobby's shoes. He's a technician. He's out doing this job. And when he opens his app, it walks him through these things. But before Bobby got there, a salesperson may have been there. And the salesperson's not doing the same thing Bobby's doing. So are they using the same app? Does it look the same? How does that work?
A lot of our customers will actually have the salesperson go out with the exact same app, and they'll use that to capture an opportunity, to build out a quote from there and being able to send that to the customer for signature. And we can use things like Titan Forms to be able to email out a document that can be merged in with images and then signed by the customer and then stored back to an opportunity. And then after that, once we close the sale, we can then schedule a follow-up. And sometimes we've even set it up where the person who made the sale is the one doing the scheduling in the field. So they're able to pull up an app and say, okay, well, here are our current time slots for next week. What works for you? And we get the install scheduled right away.
Bobby, sounds like he's taking the fun right out of it, man.
I know,
right? So when we think about the steps a technician might take, typically they're going to be there longer than the salesperson was for most services. Are these steps they're going to go through, what they're guided through, or is that the same process too? Or can that be set up to be unique for sales versus what a technician would do?
Yeah, I mean, you can set that per user. So it's determined by the user, what steps they'll see and what steps they follow. So you can definitely set that per user.
Man, that's those two things alone from the start of it where I'm scheduling it to the back end of it where I'm executing it, right? This is when you think about a client experience, what customers expect to receive and under the umbrella of service, demands and expectations are only going up, right? So to the extent I can document this, develop this in a way that's aligned to what we as a company want to do, but more importantly, to what our customers expect. And then have a really systemic way of capturing time. When did I get there? When did I leave? Did they sign? Did they pay? All these things. These prevent go backs. They prevent stopping to go to Home Depot to pick up things that I forgot, right? We don't make money when we're doing circles. Nobody does. So in the spirit of efficiency and growth, right, this is a really powerful tool to help you with some of that stuff. What are a few of the other options, Bobby, in the tool that you speak to? And I know we can't get into this level of detail in all of them, but what are some other ones that are commonly heard of from our field service customers?
Yeah, I'll give you a short list of some of the other features that we see that are very popular is crew management. So it's a crew management console. It's an app that's part of Salesforce that allows the field managers or the back office people to set up crews and assign different service resources to different crews or move them from one crew to another. So there's also maintenance plans. Maintenance plans are a way to set up recurring appointments for quarterly maintenance, semi-annual maintenance, things like that, so that those appointments can be automatically created. And then the dispatchers just need to schedule those appointments to a technician that's available. And then we have shift management. And this is for scheduling non-standard workers. So you think of contractors who may only have a certain amount of hours or certain days of the week that they work. So it's a way to get them into the system and allow them to work on their schedule. And then we have inventory. And inventory is a complex subject, but in general, you have products that you have in a list inside Salesforce, and those products can be consumed in the fulfillment of work on site. And that, removes that item from inventory or decrements that inventory. So you can keep track of how much product you have in your warehouses at any given time.
I've got a friend who started a company 20 years ago, his childhood friend. And of all the challenges he had when he started this company, and he was a one-man crew for a while, but once he started getting bigger and he had vans with people in them going out, the number one problem he asked me to help him come up with a way from software to track it was, all right, John comes in his van and he just grabs a handful of these and a handful of those, so the salesman said, you need 8 widgets. Well, they grabbed 10 because Murphy, right? So, and this guy does it every time. So he had 2 leftovers. He comes back and he just grabs 10 more for the next job, even if it only needed 5. And all of a sudden you've got 3 warehouses running around in vans. And the problem he had was people would go start their own business. They would take the extra widgets that were kind of non-inventory items, if you will, and whatnot. So to your point, it is very complicated, but a very powerful feature where you should be able to prevent that. So when somebody comes in, like, here's the 3 jobs you've got today. Here's a list of all the parts that you're going to need today. You could even have that staged and waiting on them. So they just load it in, no thought required. Go execute. Go do what we hired you to do, which is execute in the field, right? Sure. Those are powerful. And again, I think each one of those probably could be their own episode. We'll have to do that in a future date. But this sounds all rosy, gentlemen. Like, we started out with beepers and clipboards, and now we're talking about this thing guiding me around. I know it's not that simple. So what are some of the more significant issues when somebody asks us to come in and help set up field service for them? What are some of the headwinds that we commonly face from clients?
Yeah, if you think about this originating as a paper process, so often anything that comes based off of it being a paper process are issues that we have to run into. Generally, the data is absolutely awful because you can't require somebody to fill out a certain field on a piece of paper in a certain way. It's inconsistent at the very least. Sometimes there's whole sections of data that are just gone, that just don't exist past a certain point in time. Also, these companies tend to not have very well-defined processes. So if you imagine we're doing everything day-to-day running on these paper systems or very antiquated software. Really, we kind of evolved the business around workarounds, and we just do whatever we need to survive day to day. When we have to step back and think, how do we build a system to actually work with us? It's really an evolution. You have to really stop and kind of start from the beginning and figure out, how do we do business, or how should we do business? And that's part of what we do, is help people to define what should the future look like and how can we use Salesforce to make that happen. And then, Greg, I know you're big on change management. I'm curious, what are the issues that you see? You've been on a few of these before.
You picked up my giggle, did you? Yeah. I mean, I've been doing projects for 30 years in a variety of businesses. I've seen employees get dropped off from prison trucks and work 8 hours and get picked up at the end of the day. And I've been involved with pharmaceutical billion-dollar projects. And there's some common things, believe it or not, that you see across projects like that. And probably one of the most prevalent ones is this. If you do everything perfect on the technical side, meaning the business says, I want ABC, you build that process, you set up the app and they go do it. If you do that perfect and you've not come at this project considering the people that are going to use it and what they need and what they want, at best, you're going to have 50% adoption at best. At the end of the day, you're not going to spend all this money just to get things into a system, right? You want to maximize throughput, right? And it's not just about profit at the end of the day. I mean, that might be the PE's goal, but for the people who are managing crews going out, you want to look after those people, right? They are your product. If all your crews quit or they decide that I'm not doing this, what happened to the investment of your project, right? So we leverage a methodology here in change management developed by 𝗏𝗏. And the great thing is that if you've ever been involved in a project of any size, emotions run high. People protect their process. They protect, I've always done it this way, or trust me, this works. I'm not going to argue with you about that. It may. 𝗏𝗏 methodology is a way of coming in and kind of defining what is it we're doing? What's the goal? What's success look like for the project? Who are the people? Right? Who are the people that are going to be doing this and how are they being impacted? And who is the leadership? At the end of the day, if you just push all this out on the field people and the middle and upper management's not buying in as well, then somewhere that's going to break. I mean, you heard Bobby lay out this eloquent beginning to end process. If any part in the middle of that, they just decide we're not playing this game, right? It fails. So the methodology really goes through and looks at those tiers and makes sure that that works. On the other side of it, we look at each group and do what's called an ADKAR assessment. And I'll do the acronym. I'm going to try to do this off the top of mind real quick. A is awareness. Do they know that it's coming? Do they know why it's coming? Do they know what they're going to get? Is there anything in it for them kind of a thing? They got to buy into that. D is desire. Okay, they know it's coming, but are they dreading it? Are they sabotaging you behind the scene? K is knowledge. Knowledge, this is kind of getting to where you've seen it, you've seen demos, you're getting ready to lay your hands on it and test it. This is training, right? And all the things that these all kind of up to the point of go live. The next A is ability, right? So this means they've been set up as users, they have the permissions, they've had the training, they're actually ready to go. And then R is actually looking post go live, and that's reinforcement. Let's just be honest. It's not just technology that's changed since Bobby and I had beepers and clipboards. The other thing that's changed is kind of expectations on the back end. Like, we're not going to be static as a company. We're going to buy another brand and integrate them in, or we're going to broaden our product portfolio or our offerings. Things are going to change. So change management is not something you do for the scope of the project. It's something you adopt as a business culture that actually makes you more agile and allows you to increase the velocity that you can do things like this and build on it. It's very methodical and it's unemotional. That's what I love about it. And you iterate throughout the project. So you go through the ADKR, you give scores of all these things. In areas that are weak, you stop and you address that. And the idea is like no team left behind, right? But at the end of the day, what you want to do is arrive at that go live. All arrows pointed in the same direction, excited to get this thing, having vetted it out. Every voice has been heard, right? It doesn't mean you say yes to everything, but you agree on what the priorities are. You build, test, and execute those well. And then you build on others looking at a later project.
Absolutely.
As you think about some of these, well, we talked about the siloed process and translating customers' process, which often doesn't exist. Adoption, we talk about on the change management side, obviously. Talk about some of the things that we've done here at Cirrius, Bobby. Again, I remember some early conversations you and I had when I got here about what field service looked like and what we were seeing in our clients. We've seen much larger engagements in more recent years. What are some of the things that we're doing to help our clients to bring a product like this and doing it as quickly and efficiently as possible?
Yeah. So we developed an accelerator. And so this accelerator is many hours worth of work for things that we saw that we were having to build for projects that, field service projects. So we were having to build automations, formulas, different page layouts, everything. And we were repeating this over and over and over again for every project. And it was time consuming and tedious. And so we decided to get together and put all of this into a package, build something out that worked for most customers, and really set that baseline product. Because what we find is if you don't have a good baseline for field service, then scaling that solution down the road becomes more difficult and you'll end up creating problems. So that's what the accelerator was really built for, was to create a good foundation to build on top of field service. And so that's the purpose of the accelerator that we use for our customers these days. And we don't really use it as just an end product. It's more of a jumping off point. So it sets that foundation, and then we iterate on that foundation with customizations per the customer process.
And that's been proven dozens of times across many industries. So a lot of time and expertise has gone into building that really solid baseline.
So these things that we've identified, again, across dozens of different fields. At the end of the day, they all have products, they all have resources, they all have skills, they all have working hours, they all have territories, they all have products or services they're going to sell. They all have some type of closeout document that they want to provide on the back end of it. So these are things that are probably 80% common 90% of the time. Like, they may not use it exactly as we install it, but instead of paying somebody 40, 50, 60 hours to do these same things over and over again, like, we literally hit install and it goes in. And then it's just a matter of kind of starting with that. So it raises the level of foundation you're starting from, saves our clients an awful lot of money. The other thing that it does, if they're going from a paper process or either some other system, the hardest thing that I've witnessed in the world of consulting is getting you and the customer to be envisioning the same thing. You can talk about it all day long. You can get out a paper and a Sharpie and draw it, but there's something about bringing up a screen with a record on it and you go, oh, I see what you're talking about. And what that does is it might eliminate 3 weeks of going back and forth and iterating stuff. Now I've got something that's almost there, and we just need to tweak the layout a little bit. So that rapidly accelerates our ability, hence the name accelerator. It accelerates our ability to get this thing off the ground and get some buy-in from people who might be sitting on the fence, to be honest.
That's right.
Guys, I mean, all I feel like I've done is open Pandora's box, and there's so many areas I want to go with this, but I know we're limited on time. I just do want to say for the listener here, there's going to be a couple of artifacts on the back end of this. We have something called a white paper. This is a document basically that highlights our accelerator and kind of what we do with it. So in the show notes, there'll be a link that you can go download that and take it away. If you're considering this product, considering getting field service, is a great thing to look at and help get your mind in the right space. And the other thing is Bobby would have talked for 4 hours if I'd have let him. He's actually got quite a few other features that we could talk about. Just for time wise, it just doesn't make sense. So we're going to provide a document that kind of goes into some of those other things, basically a glossary of terms, the things that are in this product, just so you're aware of them. Last thing, I got to say, Al, if somebody listens and they go, that sounds interesting, but I got questions, contact us here at Cirrius Solutions. There'll be an email address in the show notes. You can reach out to us. Bobby or Al, either one, have just got millions of hours of experience with this product and be happy to talk to you about how we can get you on board here. Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough. It's always interesting to take a really technical product like this and let's break it down into something we can talk about to just about anybody that wants to listen. I'll say this is probably one of the more difficult products that Salesforce sells. I know when I got here, we were consistently hearing from clients who tried to do it themselves or hired somebody who had not done it before, and it went horribly wrong. Right? I can use my screwdriver as a hammer, but at the end of the day, that thing's going to break and I got to buy another one. This is a product that's meant to be built on, but to Bobby's point, you really have to good foundation under you. You got to start right. That's on the product and on your people. So if there's anything we can do to help you out, we'd love for you to reach out to us and let us know. If you have more questions on the product, again, reach out to that same address. I know Bobby's number. I'll get answers to your questions and get them back to you. Bobby, Al, thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate you getting into this. Hopefully we'll get to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Appreciate it.
Well, thanks again for spending time with us today on Salesforce at Scale. We hope this episode gives you a clearer picture of how to scale field service the right way. We're providing some resources if you want to learn more. Be sure to check out the show notes. If you enjoyed the conversation, make sure to follow or subscribe to the show so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you're willing, please leave us a review. It helps us reach more leaders and teams trying to solve the same challenges. We'd also appreciate you sharing this episode with peers, colleagues, or leaders who are navigating field service transformation. It's a conversation more teams need to be having. And if you've got questions or want to continue the discussion, reach out to us at SirriusTalk@SirriusSolutions.com. That address is also in the show notes. Lastly, a special thank you to Jason Fowler for letting us use his song, Mystery Road. Until next time, keep building for scale.